What's up guys, Kara Corey, registered dietitian here. Welcome back for another video. If you guys are new here, be sure you stick around, hit that subscribe button, eat some cookies with me, and stay tuned for lots of good information. For today's video, I'm going to discuss with you some healthy food swap ideas, which works out perfect because I'm eating some homemade cookies right now. They're so good. Before we dive right into the video, I do want to mention a little bit about my nutrition philosophy because I am someone that's a firm believer in having no food rules. After spending years of my life having food rules, I encourage you all to get to a place of having none. And with saying that, what I mean is if your body is craving something, say you're craving a real cookie, a Mrs. Fields cookie, and that is just what you're wanting, then you get that cookie, girl, and you eat it and you enjoy it and you feel good about it and don't feel guilty afterwards. Make the decision and own it and enjoy it. You know, you don't always have to make a homemade substitution. However, what I want to mention is we can't do that all the time, right? We can't approach each and every meal or each and every time we sit down to eat to live our best life and YOLO it with the most flavorful, tasteful thing. What we need to do is also respect our body and make sure that we're putting in good, nutritious foods. So I just want to throw that out there because while I am giving you healthier swaps, healthier substitutions, my approach is still, you know, if you're eating healthy the majority of the time and you're craving a bomb-ass burger and fries and a cookie, then eat that too. And I just want to make sure that message is clear before we dive right into some of these food swap suggestions. I'm going to finish my cookie first, and then we'll be right back. Why do I choose to eat chocolate before I do a video? Some of these food swap ideas, maybe simple tips, maybe common sense, maybe things you've heard before. But again, I'm always here just offering some suggestions in hopes to motivate you guys and help you to make healthier choices throughout your week, throughout your days. So we're gonna start out with healthy food swap number one, and that is eating at home more versus eating out. I want you to think right now, do a mental inventory of how many times per week do you eat out? Are you someone that eats out every day? You know, you go to work and you're always going out to eat because you don't pack your lunch. Are you going out for dinner every night? Think about how many times you eat out during the week. Now I know, thankfully, we can make healthier options eating out now that you know, restaurants and even fast food places have caught up with us and offering us some healthier alternatives. However, you're never really gonna know what you're eating unless it's made in your own dang kitchen, right? So I am a big proponent of, if you're able to, making the majority of your meals at home. And even if it's something you're craving, for instance, I made cookies today because I really was craving cookies, but I also wanted to make them healthy and know what was going into them. So as many times as you can do that and eat at home, you're likely to make a healthier option, and you're also able to eat quite a bit more because when you eat out, there's often added oils, added fats that, in my opinion, aren't really necessary. Like when you give me a hamburger, I don't need my bun to be buttered, okay? I know you maybe are toasting it, but I don't need like a smear of butter on my bun when I'm eating a hamburger. And maybe you don't care, I never taste it. To me, it's just a waste of extra fat. So that's just an example of some extra places that there's added fats when you eat out, added sodium that it's kind of hard to account for, even though you can certainly track, you can estimate as best you can, but you're always going to be able to have a healthier meal in your own home when you're cooking it yourself and knowing exactly what you're putting into it. This next one, I'm not sure if everyone agrees with me or not, but I'm a huge proponent of eating your fruits over drinking juice. So as a kid, I was a huge juice drinker. A little fun fact for you, I actually rotted my teeth as a child drinking so much apple juice because I didn't have the proper enamel on my teeth. Juice is often going to be stripped of some of the nutrients that you could be getting if you actually ate the whole fruit. If I ate a whole apple with the skin and all the nutrients, all the fiber, a lot of that is contained in the skin. And if you're just drinking a apple juice, you're probably not getting that. I do want to point out a lot of people are very much so into juicing nowadays. I've talked a little bit about juicing on my channel. I'm not anti-juicing, so don't get me wrong there. I think it is a great way to stay hydrated. I think it's a great way to get a robust amount of nutrition in a small volume. You know, if you make a green juice and put a lot of different stuff in it, if you make it yourself, you're really packing a lot of nutrition into a small punch. However, it is, to me, best if you can eat the skin and eat it in its more natural form. But if you're someone that juices, look, there's worse things you could be doing. There's no harm coming from drinking a juice. I just personally find most people get more satisfaction out of eating things, out of the chewing process. I just find it more satisfying. And again, you can get a bit more nutrition from eating the whole fruit itself. So this one might be obvious, but again, something to take note of is trying to either order foods or make them yourselves pan-fried versus deep-fried. Deep-fried should be a big warning sign for everyone here. If you don't know that already, deep-fried is probably going to be as bad as it can get for you. Stay away from the state fair for those deep-fried Oreos, but that is just going to be covered and saturated in oil. So a healthier alternative to that would be just to simply pan fry something. Use a little bit of oil, and you really aren't, you know, soaking something where you're just getting way overloaded with those fats. You can use a more moderate amount, or if you're someone like myself, I love air frying. You don't have to use oil in the air fryer. You can simply use a spray, a non-stick, a non-fat spray, and sometimes I do still use a little bit of oil, and a little bit goes a long way. There's also something called the misto that you can purchase, which is basically like a little sprayer, and what you can do is pour your oil into that. So if you buy avocado oil or vegetable oil, you can pour that in there and it comes out as a spray. So again, you're not using as much of it, but you're still getting that good source of fats. Next healthy swap is to sub out if you're still eating iceberg lettuce salads, which I grew up on, okay? I did in college. I used to buy whole heads of iceberg lettuce and eat those for salads just because it's like crunchy and tasty. Nothing wrong with it, you guys, but if you want to get more bang for your buck, then swap it out with some darker greens. Even if you're not going full on dark like kale, even just getting a romaine has more nutritional value than iceberg. But I encourage you to do something like a baby spinach, you know, and really get loads of nutrition from that baby spinach. Still have a good salad, but you're gonna be making more bang for your buck by just making that simple swap. I was just thinking about fajitas the other night because my sister said she was making fajitas, and I was like, oh, that sounds so good with sour cream and cheese and all that good stuff. So my next food swap for you is a fun little trick. You know, full fat sour cream is pretty high in fat, so a great alternative to sour cream in any of your recipes or anytime you want to use it as a dip is to sub it out with Greek yogurt. If you get the plain unflavored, you know, whatever fat percentage you want, it's probably still less than sour cream. It's going to have that same kind of thickness and flavor when you get it plain as a sour cream. So it's a great swap for fajitas or tacos or putting on top of your chili. What else do people use sour cream for? Nachos, any of that stuff. It gives you that same flavor, but in a healthier alternative. And then you're also getting the protein from the Greek yogurt. Next up is a spice suggestion for you guys. Oftentimes we underutilize our spices and how much that can really make our food more robust. So a simple swap for you if you're someone that really loves sugar and a sweet tooth like myself is swap that out with some cinnamon, or even if you don't swap it totally out, because I can totally understand you're not comparing apples to apples, but it can help you with reducing the amount you maybe use. So whether if you use regular sugar in your coffee, or maybe you're making oatmeal in the morning, maybe doing a little bit less and adding in some cinnamon, because that flavor of the cinnamon is really going to make it flavorful. It's got a great flavor to it, and it'll at least help you cut back on possibly the amount of added sugar you're throwing into your diet. Let's talk about breakfast in terms of a healthy swap. I grew up on sugary cereal, so don't get me wrong, I love those. However, an easy healthy swap for you guys would be to swap out a sugary cereal, and you do need to take a look at the nutrition facts to really know how high in sugar something is. Take a look at the fiber content, but I usually recommend swapping out a high sugar cereal for something a little bit lower in sugar. Maybe look for something less than 10 grams per serving, and also take a look at that fiber content. Breakfast time is a real great time to start your day with something high in fiber. Oftentimes we struggle to meet our fiber needs by the end of the day. Women should be getting 25 to 30 grams per day. Men should be aiming for 30 to 35. And if we're missing out on that in our breakfast meal, it can be really tough to get enough in. So not only starting your day with a higher fiber cereal will help you better meet your fiber goals, which is just good for overall health, it's actually going to help you feel full longer than if you just ate your standard sugar cereal, because that fiber, when you try to digest it, it's going to make the digestion process a lot slower, therefore making you feel a little bit more full and satisfied even longer. And to add to that, don't just eat a bowl of cereal for breakfast, because even if I sat down with a nice big bowl of all brand cereal and milk, all I'm really getting there is carbohydrates and maybe a little bit of protein from the milk. You definitely want to make sure you beef up the protein a little bit, as well as adding in some fats. That combination of protein, fats, carbs with that extra fiber in there is really a nutritional powerhouse to start your day out right. So you've got some good nutrition, you feel nourished, you feel ready to start your day, you can think straight, and you're not ravenous or making bad choices at the end of the day. Next healthy swap is in terms of your pasta dishes, your salad dressings, your dips. An easier substitution there would be thinking about like any of those cream-based ones, like your cream-based pasta sauces like Alfredo, or like your creamy spinach artichoke dip, queso dip, dressings as well, ranch, Caesar. They're so delicious and creamy, right? But the creamier they are, that just means that they're going to be higher in fat, which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, when you're thinking about your overall caloric intake, it's something to be mindful of. So an easier substitution there would be to go more towards, like, in terms of salad dressings, more vinegar, vinaigrette-based dressings. I usually like to look for ones that don't have too much stuff added to them. Those ingredient lists can get super long when it comes to dressings. I look for something a little bit more natural. It's just like balsamic vinaigrette with not a ton of sugar added to it. In terms of pasta dishes, going towards marinara sauce versus the heavy cream Alfredo is going to make it naturally lower in fat, lower in calories. And things like dips, go with a salsa. Like, salsa is so good for you, and it really can be added to tons of different dishes, and it's a really nice option. So don't be scared if you do go out to eat to also ask for those other modifications. I know a lot of people get nervous about that, but no one's going to do it for you. If you ask nicely, no one should be worried about offending someone. That's what they have cooks for. That's what they have the wait staff for. They should have a good understanding of their menu and be able to tell you if they can modify something for you. But only you can, ask for those things. You have to kind of stand up for what you need for your meals to best meet your dietary needs. This isn't really a healthy swap, but just a recommendation for you guys when thinking about eating in terms of your health is to chew more slowly. And it's something that we don't really think a lot about because we're so busy and we're always in our head thinking about the next thing we need to do, that oftentimes we don't really give the time and attention to our meals that it really deserves. And it really should be an event that you pay attention to. You shouldn't be sitting in front of the TV eating food, and I'm so guilty of that. It's like this, it's pleasurable, right? To like sit down with some good shows and eat your dinner. But when you do that, you're losing sight of your food, and you're losing sight of what's going on in your body and what your body's telling you. If you're enjoying the food, if you're eating too fast, if you're starting to get full, all those things that you really do want to be paying attention to, you're not really able to when you're doing other leisure activities. So if you're watching TV on your phone, really getting back to basics with just sitting down with your food and eating it and enjoying it. And maybe if you're with someone, chatting with them a bit in between bites. You know, anytime I really do that, I feel like I'm so much more satisfied with my food. And it's because you've taken the time to sit there and really appreciate it, but you've also taken the time to be in tune with what your body's telling you and be more aware of when you should stop eating and when you're feeling satisfied and don't need to eat anymore versus just eating everything that's on your plate. And I know a lot of us were raised with the Clean Your Plate Club, so it's just something you get in the habit of, but you really shouldn't be. You should think about when your body's done, and that's when you stop, when you're satisfied. And I know I'm making it sound very simple, and it's definitely not a simple thing. It's something very hard to get back to that true intuition of what our body's telling us it needs. This tip totally applies to myself and maybe to you guys as well, but that's to make sure you don't just eat straight out of the package. So for me in particular, if I buy like a can of nuts, I can eat the whole can of nuts because you kind of don't pay attention. They go down so quick, right? Or bags of potato chips too. I feel like you can just eat the whole bag, boxes of cereal, things like that you can kind of you don't really feel as full from snacking on. Instead of just eating straight out of the box where you kind of lose sight of the portion out something. I'm not saying you have to measure and track your food. That's not what I'm getting at. But if you're someone that wants to just eat some dry cereal, then grab a bowl, dump the cereal into it, and then put the box away. Because I think it is a common issue for a lot of us where we become kind of mindless with it. And if it tastes good and it's snacky but not so filling, that's where we can really struggle with those calories that can add up that we're not so aware of. Another healthy swap is our coffee drinks. We have to be careful for those of us that love going to Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Wow, they have some of the most delicious sounding creations like Girl Scout cookie flavored lattes that come with whipped cream and syrup on top. Oh, this sounds phenomenal, right? But you're talking about loads and loads of calories and sugar. So if it's just caffeine that you're after, just get yourself some coffee. And I am not a black coffee drinker, don't get me wrong. I have to put my stevia drops and my ritual in my coffee to make it taste all nummy. But think about how many calories you could be consuming with some of those fancy beverages. But don't get me wrong, your girl is going to enjoy a pumpkin spice latte at least once a year because I've got to be basic. So it's all about the moderation. It's not something I'm going to do every single day. I'm going to enjoy it like once as like a little seasonal fun thing. But if you're doing it every single day, that could be an easy spot to swap it out and really decrease your caloric intake and decrease that added sugar in your diet. My last healthy swap, or kind of more of a trick for you guys, is when you're eating at home, select the right dish to eat your food on. And I know that sounds weird, but I enjoy my food so much more if it's in the right shaped bowl. I like my salads in a giant mixing bowl. When I'm eating dinner, I like to feel like I'm eating a lot and a lot of volume. So sometimes instead of eating on a giant plate, I'll do a smaller plate and really pile it on there. And just that visual aesthetic of looking at a heap of food versus it all spread out, sometimes mentally can make you more aware of what you're eating, how much, and just feel more satisfied by it. There have been a lot of studies done in terms of plate size that do support that eating with a smaller plate, folks tend to eat less than if you're eating on a larger plate. So if that's something you have an issue with, take a look at your dishware and see if maybe you just need to downsize to a smaller dish or, smaller bowls. I know when I was in bodybuilding prep, which is just the extreme, but my oatmeal portions would get small. And so, your carbs would get cut. So I would just use a smaller bowl every time it would so that it looked like my oatmeal was more plentiful, if you will. So sometimes it's just finding those little tricks that really satisfy your mind, because half the time it's a mental battle. Am I right? A lot of us know how to eat healthy. We know what's good for us, but there's something that prevents us from doing it more consistently. So sometimes it is just finding some of these little fun tips and tricks that work well for you to make better choices at the end of the week. I hope you guys found this video helpful. There's tons of fun tips and tricks out there. Feel free to share some below with the community. I know we like to go through and read each other's messages, and I like to help other people out by having you guys share below with the Fit Life community. So be sure to do that. Also, be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you did enjoy this video and want to see more like this. I will be sure to do so. That's what tells me you guys like them. So enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video.